Good evening to everyone in the studio and at home tuning in tonight on NCN. I am Nicole MacDonald, the Senior Communications Officer for the government. I want to thank the media for being here tonight and welcome you all to the press briefing by the Honorable Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Mr. Alan Michael Chastanet. The aim of this press conference is to bring information to the public in different forums. The aim of the government is to be very open and honest with our reporting. We would like to bring information to you in all different formats, and tonight, this press briefing is just the beginning. We will begin taking questions very shortly, but first, I want to start by introducing the Prime Minister, who will make an opening statement about some of the issues I am sure you will have questions about this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Alan Michael Chastanet.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Nicole.
Good evening. And
good evening to the media, and good evening, St. Lucia. It's been approximately just over 100 days since we've taken office, and a lot has happened in that short period of time. I'm very happy that we have been able to fulfill, for the most part, our promises on the 5 to Stay Alive. The one remaining aspect of 5 to Stay Alive, which we're working on, is the VAT. As indicated that we intend to be able to reduce the VAT, but in order to be able to do so, we have commissioned a report by CDB, which had the involvement of the Central Bank, IMF and the World Bank, as well as supposed to be CARTAC, but unfortunately CARTAC could not be part of the event because they were preoccupied. So we have commissioned Ernst & Young to do a tax audit for us. So basically review the existing tax structures that we have, and in particular VAT, in order to be able to come up with a number that everybody is going to be comfortable with. So we just received the CDB report on Friday, and we're expecting to get the Ernst & Young report in another 3 weeks. Once we have that, then I will be able to announce. So I am intending to announce the new VAT rate by the end of October. In getting into office, I have to say that probably the thing that confronted me immediately that I was not expecting. I knew it was bad, but I wasn't expecting it to be as bad as it was, and that is the judicial system. We have over a 4,000 case backlog. We're understaffed in the Attorney General's office. We're grossly understaffed in the DPP's office. We've just recently been downgraded in our human rights ranking, and we have the continuation of the impacts and also now landbirds. So in our own research, we're seeing that the human rights issue has been predominantly driven by the landbird situation. And you have to take it from how people perceive it on the outside, is that while the case has been proceeding, it does not appear that the government is putting up a sufficiently good defense. And so a lot of international organizations don't just measure us on the result of the case, but they look at the ability of the government to be able to try the case. We've had situations where students have left and the defense lawyers have done their job, which is in terms of trying to defend their client. And as a result of it, there has been a lot of delay tactics. So we saw today the comments by Mrs. Pratt, and I think that I empathize with her in terms of what's taking place. But the executive is not involved in the judiciary system. The manner in which the executive is involved in terms of making the resources available to the judiciary system. And I think in many ways that we have failed the judiciary system. And that is why I took the unprecedented step that when I came in and met with the judiciary and realized the complications that had arisen because all the courts were all around St. Lucia, and the perception of disorganization, that we offered the judiciary to be able to move into the new financial center. So there have been architects and engineers and interior decorators working to determine the quantum it would cost to be able to transform the financial center into the new courthouse. Unfortunately, the courts have indicated they don't believe that there is sufficient space in order to be able to cause the financial center building to be a long-term solution to their problem. And so they would prefer at this point not to move in to that building. But I believe in principle we've agreed that the Regional Court of Justice will more than likely occupy the conference facility upstairs and the last floor of the building. And then we will proceed with our plans of moving in the Ministry of Finance departments into that building. We have immediately moved to be able to resolve the issue, even if it's on a temporary basis with regards to the DPP. So when we got in, it was made very clear that the short list of candidates all were confronted with the same problem, that the remuneration that the government was offering was inadequate, and therefore none of the candidates would have accepted the job. So with the cooperation of the Chief Justice, we've agreed to upgrade the DPP's position to grade 21, and that has given us the ability to appoint a person on a one-year contract. That is an important step because without the DPP, a lot of things have come to a grinding halt. So for instance, the signing of warrants. Right now, the AG is having to do the signing of warrants, and the AG doesn't feel as comfortable because she is not au courant with the cases that are taking place as would a DPP would have been. We're also the appointment of a special prosecutor to be able to work, to be able to find a solution to the impacts report. Without a DPP, a special prosecutor can't be appointed. This has been very painful, and I have to say to you, has caused me much grief, and it ought to cause all solutions a deep sense of concern in terms of what's taking place in the judiciary. To complicate matters further is that we also have a very demoralized and depleted police force. I have a request for 30 vehicles. We're down to 2 motorbikes. No computers. The condition of the police officers themselves, the morale of the policemen because of what's been taking place with impacts, and I'm sure because of the lack of resources that are being put into this. So the forensic lab is not working, and the forensic lab was damaged by an earthquake and requires over $300,000 to $400,000 just to fix that aspect of it. And then in addition, now having to restaff the forensic lab again. So the police and the DPP's office are integral in being able to deliver justice to this country. And so without an investigative arm functioning, it almost becomes virtually impossible for the DPP's office to work. And then when you consider there's only 4 lawyers in the office, and now with 1 deputy DPP, and there's supposed to be 10, and given the level of backlog cases we have, you have the Pratt case, you have the Gobar case, you have the Greenwood case. I can go down the list of unresolved murders that are creating havoc in the reputation of St. Lucia. What we found when we came in is that the Prime Minister and Cabinet had proceeded to approve the building of a new administrative complex at Golden Hope. So an amount of $17 million had been approved to open up a new office for the Prime Minister and Cabinet. I have met with the contractors and asked them to change the design concept and to now make that the police headquarters. And this government will be doing everything we can right now to be able to bring confidence back both into the judicial system as well as the police force. Now, I say that, and I want also solutions to appreciate the context in which I'm saying that. We had a budget that was passed in May, and as many of you will remember, there was no policy debate with the budget. The budget calls for a $65 million deficit. An overall deficit of about $112 million, $128 million, and a current account deficit of about $54 million or $56 million. What we're finding out is that budget was not very well put together. So for instance, let's just take the school system. Only $1 million had been allocated to repair the schools. And Sir Arthur Lewis College alone, the lowest estimate we got was $3.5 million. The stadium for CPI was not operational, and we had to put money into that. We're finding a whole bunch of areas in which the budgets appear to have been grossly underestimated. I had a meeting today with regards to the new hospital. The dialysis lab, which the room was completed and functional. All that was missing are the chairs. And as I had indicated previously, it takes once you order the chairs, it would take about 6 to 10 weeks to be able to have that room operational. To find out that monies had not even been allocated to be able to buy that last piece of equipment to make the dialysis lab functional. So we're talking over $1 million in order to make that, to purchase that equipment. There are buildings and equipment in the hospital that have not been ordered. So for instance, the hospital is only expected to have 120 rooms, which is grossly under the number of rooms that we presently have at VH. So we're now having to find new space to be able to add at least another 24 rooms, which is going to be, again, at an incremental cost. So everywhere I turn, I find out that there was inadequate allocations for this budget. So it really means that if in fact the budget had been built realistically, the level of deficit would have been considerably more than it currently is. So while creating jobs is my priority, and I clearly understand and appreciate during the campaign how Solutions are suffering and the relief that Solutions want to see. And that is why I have taken upon myself to have as many meetings as the Prime Minister to try to be able to expedite investment in this country. Desert Star is a very ambitious project, I admit that. But I think that the developers themselves have a great sense of confidence. I love the creativity of what they have done, and I think to be able to jumpstart St. Lucia and to create a buzz about St. Lucia, that is the kind of project that we need to be able to stimulate. And it has a lot of moving pieces because it has the horse racing track, it has the hotels, it has the marina, and it also has a university park. And so it's about putting all those components together, and then in part it's very dependent on the Citizenship by Investment program. So we have had a very difficult time in being able to establish control of the government. We've been confronted with some unprecedented things. I don't think there's ever in the history I know of Parliament, of parliamentary government or Westminster government, in which an Attorney General would be appointed by a former government. Ambassadors who have contracts that have no out clauses. Investors that were signed up 2 days before the election with no out clauses in the contracts. And so I've not had the opportunity of moving quicker because obviously there are legal issues and we have to always follow the rule of law. They are civil servants whose contracts were dated in May, who were given contracts in May for 3 years with no out clauses. So we've had to go through a lot of detail to be able to work our ways through this. I want to thank the Attorney General for her cooperation We've been in deliberations in terms of how do we resolve this issue. I'm certainly hoping that with her cooperation that we can announce something very soon that would be to the mutual benefit of the state, as well as preserving the fact that she has a contract. We have been meeting with the ambassadors. I'm very grateful to a couple of the ambassadors who have recognized that that they should resign and that they have offered their resignation. Unfortunately, others have not. And so you will be hearing announcements very soon that we're proceeding to make wholesale changes in our embassies. The appointments of boards. Some boards didn't want to resign, and it took longer than expected to be able to put those board members in. And we've also gone through a process of meeting with board members to ensure that the board members are very much in tune with the policy direction we want to go in. So I have not, and this government has not been in a rush to go and just appoint people willy-nilly. We want to see where we're going to be. So the time scale that I'm working towards right now is that we're using this time right now to develop our overall plan. And so it's the intention of our government that when we announce the budget in April, that we will announce obviously a one-year financial budget, but we're going to announce and roll out a 4-year development plan for this country, building on the theme of our campaign, which is building a new St. Lucia. So we've been working with ministries and with statutory agencies in terms of dealing with their immediate crisis, but at the same time looking as to how we can restructure. There's some very interesting things that were revealed in the CDB report. One, St. Lucia is the highest percentage of taxes to GDP, meaning that we have done a really good job of raising money from taxes. So as a percentage of GDP, we're about 26%, and most countries are around 22 to 23%. The other thing that was interesting is that we have had the lowest rate of return on government capital investment. So the things in which government has spent its money in have not produced the same level of returns as some of the other countries. And clearly that since our government left office in 2011, that the economic macro numbers for St. Lucia have gotten substantially worse than they were before. So it's in light of that that says that what we're doing is unsustainable and that we're going to have to be able to change the direction that we're moving in. And so we've been spending time in building that macro policy, and I've put together a group of people who are advising me with regards to the financial direction of this country, which would obviously include the new VAT and a lot of new forms of taxation. And as I said, the new taxes that we're looking to do are to be less burdensome on the public of St. Lucia, to so find alternative ways of taxing different sectors that doesn't put as much pressure on the average person in St. Lucia, and particularly the more vulnerable people in our society. Healthcare, we have to look at healthcare insurance, because what we're doing currently and the numbers that we got today, clearly healthcare is not sustainable. We're estimating that just with the new hospital, the Owen King Hospital, that it's going to add another $20 to $30 million in recurrent expenditure. You've been hearing the reports in terms of what's taking place at St. Jude, so we're not even close to completing St. Jude. It is the goal of this government, after we've completed the audit, to see whether in fact we can get St. Jude maybe up and running as quickly as possible, but it may not be to the same scope that it currently or the ambitions that it had. But we're determining whether in fact that's feasible or not. So Nicole, it's been a challenging period, but I want to say that for the most part we're up to the challenge. And I'm very grateful to the ministers for their level of cooperation. I'm very grateful to the majority of civil servants who have been working with us diligently in terms of coming up with a new plan for St. Lucia, and one that we believe that can benefit to all St. Lucians.